and welcome to this week's episode of the Metacast podcast. That's the podcast that explores itself, explores ourselves, and explores the self in general. My name is Ty, and I'm going to be your host tonight.
And I am your completely non-blonde co-host, Distance.
We're actually two non-blondes tonight. And tonight is the Metacast movie show about Midsommar. All right. Midsommar is a 2019 folk horror movie. It is written and directed by Ari Aster.
It is starring Florence Pugh, Jack Rayner, William Jackson Harper, and Wilhelm Blomgren.
The budget for this movie was $9 million, and it had a box office take of $47.9 million.
The tomato meter rating is 83% with an audience score of 63%.
So Midsommar centers around Dani and her boyfriend Christian, and they travel to Sweden with Christian's friend group, and they take part in a festival that occurs once every 90 years. However, as they learn more about the group they're staying with, things seem to be stranger and stranger. So this movie, I was a really big fan of Hereditary, and so I was excited to see this, and it is very different. There is a lot of shit in this that is very, very weird. There is a lot of shit that is a tough watch. There are some very visually striking scenes, both in a positive and in a negative way. But all in all, I would say that my time watching this, I did enjoy. I really like the movie. I think it brings up a lot of cool ideas that are both important and good to explore. So as far as a verdict for this one, I do have to give this a yes. I was a good fan of this, and I think that anyone can really get something out of this movie, and it's not just a simple horror movie. There's really a lot there to unpack, and I think I think there's some cool ideas in this.
I agree with more or less all of that. I mean, this is another, for me, this is another one of the more like idea type or theme type movies, where there's like things in there that I think are relevant for people to kind of explore as, you know, a dissection of certain portions of society or certain groups. The visuals are a little much. It's a little unsettling. And it's like, I actually hate the fact that I think that for watching it is a yes for me. I kind of hate the fact that I want to give it a yes, but it is a yes, because there's just it is. If you want to expand your comfort zone with movies, this is a good one to do that with. Yeah, and I think that it does kind of keep you going, and that there is an interesting kind of place where the movie ends up and where the audience ends up by the end of it, I think. Yeah,
I think that's a great way of putting it. And let's dive into what that interesting area is. Let's get to it. Dude, so yeah, what were your first impressions on this? Did you go into it expecting anything, or hold on, you have not seen Hereditary, right?
No.
Okay. No. So what were you expecting going into this?
I was expecting to still have a crush on Toni Collette.
She's not in this one, though.
Yeah, I know. But you said it was the same people. I know that that's the only thing I know about Hereditary, is that she's in it. I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, I read the description on Amazon Prime, and I was like, okay, a ceremony, whatever thing, it gets sinister. All right. All right, where's the sinister happen? So, I mean, I didn't really know what to expect. I mean, the beginning of the film was very strange, because it was sort of, there's like some weird music, and there's like a snowy sort of landscape, and then it's a answering machine, like an old school answering machine. I'm like, well, that's weird. Yeah. And then two old people laying in a bed. And actually, in my notes, I typed in, "Are the parents dead?" ?
Yep. Yeah, I immediately got that too, because they were just too. It didn't look like sleeping. Yeah. Like just too calm. Yeah.
And the thing that I thought was interesting is that Dani, like, she is like, it's like textbook anxiety.
Yeah.
She's overthinking. She's speaking quickly, posing like scenarios of all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yep.
Takes Ativan, just like, bloop, bloop, bloop. Yeah. And, it was like this sort of, the thing that was weird is that with Christian's friends, it was kind of like a thing that everyone does. Like,
Yep.
You hate your buddy's girlfriend, but you have to act like you don't.
Yeah, dude, I think those friendship dynamics and the social shit was done so well in this movie. The like Mark character was the perfect. I think everyone's known an asshole like Mark. Everyone's had a friend like Mark. Like it's a lot of that. I think was just really, really well done.
There actually is in my notes. I have a bullet point that says, "Of course, Mark vapes."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They made that character the perfect idiot. Everything up to like pissing on the ancestral tree. Like he did everything that idiot character would do. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. There's like a difference between being like purposely irreverent, like Sacha Baron Cohen or Tom Green.
Yeah.
There's something about being purposely irreverent and just being too stupid to have any respect for anything.
Yep.
And that's kind of like Mark is just this like kind of dipshit. And
because he's not like malicious in any way or like malevolent in any way. It's just he's just this like just dipshit. Yeah.
And I could tell. I was like, if anyone's gonna die, they're probably gonna kill Mark. I can already tell.
Yeah. I did not expect them all to die though. That was not where I thought that was going. But
yeah, I mean, the artwork, you know, the just sort of the cover that you see on Prime is just Danny wearing like the flowery thing around her head and looking kind of freaked out. And I'm like, well, that's the only thing I know for sure is going to happen.
Yeah,
freaked out person with flowers. And you know the visuals start out really early being creepy. You know, like the thing with the parents, it's like legitimately a murder suicide.
Yes. And the sister with the like duct tape to her face. Like, yeah, that was very creepy.
That was the way, and the way that they sort of like slowly bring the camera up like around, and then you sort of go down the hallway and you slowly get a better view of how like, sort of, it's weird because without there being like dismemberment or like disembowelment or whatever, they managed to make that gruesome looking.
Yes, I agree. Do you want to see the weird fan theory that I was telling you about? I did not catch this until my third watch and then had to find something online to substantiate this. This is interesting. So, right next to Danny's parents' bed, there is a flower wreath around that picture.
Oh, shit.
Just like the ones that Danny's wearing on her head at the end of the movie. Is there any chance that Pele orchestrated all of this to get Danny there into the cult to begin with? That this even wasn't just Danny's sister doing this, that this was even orchestrated by the cult group to make Danny lose everything and end up to where she needed to come to that group?
I mean, that's entirely possible. Because the thing is, you know, when there's certain times where I would be inclined to tell somebody that they were reading too far into something. But if it's a movie and there's a thing in a scene, then it would make sense that you know they did it for a reason. So yeah, I mean, that isn't entirely crazy.
I think it's interesting. I've never heard the creators talk about that idea at all, but it would be very interesting if that, because like spoiler, like, are you ever going to see Hereditary?
I probably will actually.
Okay, well then I will not say what I was going to say. Never mind.
Okay, because I it's one of those things where it's kind of like heroin. Like you just know that it's bad for you, but the curiosity is overwhelming.
That's a good way to put that, but I don't know if Hereditary is the big H. Yeah, I got you.
There you go.
You're going to talk about getting on the dark horse and it's Hereditary.
Yeah. I mean, is that what they call that? Is that what that means? The dark horse?
I think that's heroin. Yeah. I don't know.
I should get out more.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if knowing our heroin terms is where we really want to be.
It's like you don't know any of the slang terms for doing heroin. Get a life, bro.
Dude, but so like back to the beginning of this movie though, I think the visuals at the beginning were great. Like you were saying, starting with the weird, like the forest that I guess was Sweden. I'm not sure where that was really supposed to be, or if that was here in the US. They don't really show you or tell you, but everything there up until like I was saying, yeah, the social dynamics, everything. You could tell that Christian was the checked out boyfriend that, I mean, literally he would have broken up with her if it wasn't for what happened. And then he's kind of stuck in that. Because I mean, what kind of asshole would you be to break up with your girlfriend after both of her parents and sister just died?
And the thing is, at a certain point in my life, I would have thought that way. But if I wasn't happy, I'd just leave, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I know that seems bad, but like I would totally do that. Because I mean, I've just seen too many people stay in relationships out of guilt. But I mean, obviously like I would not. I mean, I would have to be in this situation honestly, but
That'd be a tough decision to make, because I mean, like you're saying, the right decision would be to leave, but at the same time, you know that you are all that person has left. They didn't, like, in most situations, you know, it's like you're right, but it's like in this situation, it's literally she lost every other person she had on the planet other than him, basically.
But I also sincerely believe that every human's way tougher than they think they are. So
Sure.
like I would just have some kind of, I don't like to use this word often, but I would have some kind of faith in the fact that they could somehow get through it. But like I said, in the situation, I probably wouldn't be able to be that like cold and like logical. I don't mean cold like as in like callous, but just like calculating. You know? Yeah. I did notice, I actually even wrote this down because they seem to very deliberately show she's like sleeping and Christian like wakes her up before they go to the party. They seem to very deliberately show the big picture with the bear. Yeah. And like the princess or the fairy or whatever.
There's a lot of foreshadowing in images in this. Yeah. That scene right before that, one thing I thought was really cool is they don't tell you how much time passed. We don't know if that's literally the next day or a few days later or a few weeks later. It's like all of a sudden they're still together and they're having this conversation. It's obviously still bothering her, but it's like we have no idea if that was literally the next day or what.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it, but that's true. Like I just had the assumption that it was like at least a number of months, but yeah, they don't make it clear.
And we don't see any physical change in the characters. Like they didn't do the like, oh, you know, she's cut her hair, or he's, you know, like, so it really literally could be the very next day.
They all look pretty much exactly the same. And there's a couple of points like where you can see like when they come back from the party, you can see more of her anxiety coming out, where she sort of confronts him, so to speak, I guess, about the whole like, well, if you were going to this and you already have a ticket, what do you mean you just figured out today, keeping it from me? And then when he's like, I think I should go. Yeah. And she's like, don't leave, please. There's a really common thing for people with like anxiety issues is that they also tend to have control issues too. And you can see that she's like it's centered around her reaction to like not being able to control what he's doing and trying to get him to stay even though he
really
wants
is that
to
how
leave.
You took that? Wow.
And she just apologizes to him to keep him there.
That is very interesting. I took that in a completely different way, that he was like gaslighting the fuck out of her. Holy shit, that is interesting. Wow.
I mean, he was just doing what was good for him. Like you're just like being unreasonable right now. You're like making this like all my fault. Like you're acting like I'm a terrible person.
Was it not his fault though?
No, I mean, she's clearly, look, I would have kept it from her too. Like she's batshit crazy. She was like that. But like before.
This is awesome.
This is common stuff. Like I've experienced this like in relationships in the past.
I'm blown away by this because I thought they were purposefully making him an unlikable douchebag. But it's like, I love that it's like you actually think that in your opinion, his behavior was normal. I love this. Yeah.
I think it was the other way around. Like I feel like she was gaslighting him.
Really?
Like that because, okay, so, and the reason why I took what she was doing as what I did is because that's stuff that I've done before. Like you notice she completely changes her tune the moment that he says like, I think I should leave. She like instantly turns into this like, oh no, please. But in reality, what she should have done is kept going, because if you think that he's being unreasonable and you have a problem with it, then fucking talk about it. Like don't tuck your tail between your legs whenever someone says they're going to leave. Keep where you are, you know, because you believe that what they did was like unfair.
But I think you're looking at that. I think you're 100% right up until that, because I don't know if she's in a position to do that. I think she's so broken at that point that she needs someone there. So it's like, even in that scene, I thought that scene was brilliantly shot, where she even like, do you notice how they immediately switch places whenever the person who was wrong switches?
Wait, what?
Like the actors, that scene starts with her on the right and him on the left. And she's, you know, bringing up that something that he did bothered her, and he is so cold about it that it ends up with her apologizing to him. And at that moment where she starts apologizing, she switches to being on the left of the screen. It was like, I thought that was brilliantly well done, where it's like he puts her in a position where she literally can't even bring up to him what the issue is, to where she has to then be apologizing for even just trying to bring it up. And it's like at that moment there was even a physical switch of sides. Like I thought that was really well executed. I thought it was cool.
And I don't think she had any reason to apologize, to be honest. Like, I mean, I think that I don't think that anybody was necessarily right in the situation. I think that at that moment it was like it just looked to me that now you're saying you're sorry when you know you had a valid concern. It's clear that you just don't want that person to leave. And you know, like that's kind of that to me, I just took that as more of the anxiety thing, because I've dealt with that, because people that don't like social situations are usually preoccupied because they're wondering what everybody's thinking and like trying to like read people's minds, and then they become so preoccupied with that they just can't even have fun in the situation. And like that's not, I mean, what she was doing right there was just, I think that she had a concern. She should have just continued, as in like, well, if you want to go, that's okay, because you know this thing I think you did is unreasonable, you know, and if you want to leave, that's fine, but I'm not gonna like act like I'm being crazy here, because I don't. It's just weird, because then at the same time I can see like where he might have wanted to keep it from her because he just figured she was gonna freak out.
Yeah. Well, I think it was also because I think his plan was he wasn't going to be with her anymore at that point. I don't think that he ever needed, in his mind, I don't think he ever needed to tell her, because the relationship was going to be over by then. And then the situation happened, and then all of a sudden he's stuck with her. But
can we, because like I guess at this point we're getting really heavy like on the characters and motivations and stuff. So while we're on that, can we talk about why she went? Like, what do you think her motivations were? Do you think she like was trying to escape, so to speak, get away from the situation? The thoughts she was having.
I think it's the exact same motivations for why she did not want him to leave in that situation, why she ended up apologizing for something like we said she had no reason to apologize for. Because I think that as we saw in the beginning of the movie, what she's going through, well, first of all, I mean, she already has anxiety issues like we brought up, and then she's dealing with both of her parents and her sister dying at the same time. We have no idea how long has passed. So I think she's just in an emotional state where she does not want to be alone. So the idea of even, I mean, like the situation where him just leaving an argument, she doesn't even want him to leave that, you know, she needs someone there with her because she's like that broken right now. So him leaving for 6 weeks, I think, is out of the question. To like, you know, she just wants to be with someone and doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah, that's kind of how I read it too, that she just really wanted to like, you know, not go if he was going. And one of the things that I kind of jotted down in the midst of that was that you could do a complex drama about just their relationship.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like without any of the other stuff happening. It would have been perfect. But one thing I like a lot is
did you notice real quick in that scene where he says like, by the way, guys, I invited Danny, and you guys told me to invite Danny, and you're all aware she's coming. Like that awkward as fuck scene. Both Josh and Mark are looking at him like, what the fuck, dude? And Pele is smiling.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. But Swedes also, I've noticed, the Swedes are very strange to like Westerners, like Americans in particular. Their mannerisms, the way they speak, like everything about them is usually very strange to most Americans.
Gotcha.
So like when I saw that, I was like, you know, maybe he's just Swedish. But the guy, Florence Pugh, yeah, that's her name, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That played Danny. But actually, in that same scene, he was like, I invited her, but she's not gonna come. Like, I invited her, and she accepted, but she's not coming.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, how does that? She just won't.
Yeah.
But I thought that Florence Pugh, like, I thought she did a really good job of the crisis acting.
Yeah.
Like when she's freaking out, like, cause the dude, the guy, the room dude, the guy that
Tommy Wiseau or whatever.
Yeah, like it's like what he's trying to do.
Yes,
but she actually did it well.
Yeah, no, her. I don't know. I've never seen Florence Pugh before this movie, but like I am amazed by her performance in this. There's like something about her on screen that I am just incredibly drawn to. Like her performance and just her like scene stealing. Like I don't know. There's something about like every time she's on camera, I can't take my eyes off her on this, and I don't know what it is. Like I think she was great in this. The scenes where she was just like completely like breaking down in misery was believable. I like normally in movies it's kind of just like, I don't know, it feels like bullshit, but like that really felt like someone like literally losing everything and like at their wits end. Yeah.
And that to me was like probably one of the most impressive parts of the film. And for some reason I do have a spot in my notes where I put, man, Pele is so Scandinavian. And it was around the part where they were talking and like they're out and it's like right before she calls him, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe it's around the time that they're all in the apartment and they're like inviting her or whatever. But it's funny because yeah, he's in a commune, and I was like, you mean a cult?
Yeah.
Because that's always what it is. But okay, there's one thing this is completely off, like outside of the movie.
Okay.
But I'd never heard the term May Queen ever in my life, except for one place. It's just a spring clean for the May Queen.
Yeah.
In Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin. Yeah, that's interesting.
That is the only. Are we going to get canceled because I mentioned Stairway to Heaven?
No.
Oops. Denied. That's the only place I've ever heard the term May Queen ever.
Just doing like a quick Google. Apparently, like Wikipedia, it is just a personification of the May Day holiday. And it's, I mean, it is like a traditional thing. It's, I mean, there's apparently records of that going back to at least like 1557. So it is like a tradition. Wow. But yeah, I mean, not common at all in once we kind of lost our pagan roots. And that is one thing that's kind of interesting. So a lot of pagan holidays, we
really lost them.
Well, a lot of pagan holidays we turned into other stuff, like the winter solstice became Christmas and like we didn't turn the summer solstice into anything. It's weird that we don't have a holiday that we celebrate in the Western world that's around June 21st.
Bro, it's called spring break. Yeah.
So yeah,
actually, that's not even around then, is it?
No, that's in like the closest we have we celebrate July 4th for our independence a few weeks later, but it's like we don't have a summer holiday that has anything to do with the solstice, which is kind of strange that we've lost that. I mean, like the equinoxes we kind of kept, the winter solstice we kept, but the summer one we kind of abandoned. So it kind of makes sense why we may have lost that like understanding of what a May Queen is, because we don't really keep any sort of traditions like that.
Yeah. But it was just, to me, like the first thing I heard when he said May Queen in my head was a Led Zeppelin song. But okay. So in that part where Pele's like, oh yeah, I lost my parents too, Sweden.
Yes.
Yeah. And she like freaks out and then goes into the bathroom, and then it somehow turns into a lavatory and an airplane.
Yeah, I loved that cut. Yeah.
Was there any symbolism there? You think it was just a clever segue?
I think the symbolism is like, have you ever been through like a really shitty period of like your life like that, where a lot of times looking at it's just flashes? Like, do you really like, you may not like, you're not really conscious moment to moment. It's just kind of like, you're barely there. You're like, here you are one moment and the next moment you're in an airplane bathroom. It's just like, I think it's kind of just showing that kind of mentality that people go through of being like in a cloud of life because of the shit she's dealing with.
Yeah. I've had one kind of like that, but I feel like it was relatively minor compared to this film now. I'm like, why was I even freaked out about that? But the one thing that really got me at the beginning, because I do find myself talking a lot about camera work, because it's something I didn't really pay attention to as a movie viewer before. And like now that we do a show about it, the scene where the camera is following the car, and it sort of like goes over, and then the car's upside down and the road is upside down, and it stays like that for like, I think it's like 30 entire seconds, maybe longer than that, maybe almost a minute.
It was weird.
And to me, I was just kind of like, hey, way to make the audience uncomfortable, guys.
I was wondering,
Props.
I was wondering if there was anything more beyond that, other than it just being kind of, excuse me, like you're saying, like showing it being kind of weird, making it kind of uncomfortable. But yeah, I hey, the big dog. Yeah. Have you've seen Midsommar? Good. It was a strange one, wasn't it? Okay. So I want to get to when they finally get to, I forget the name of the area, but the Horga, when they meet the first group of Horga, where they, they're not at the village yet, but they're like at the younger people. The whole, like, I'm going to wait for Danny to start my trip thing, and like the awkwardness done there between like Mark and them, that is so perfect. And I also think the way that this movie did psychedelic visuals was amazing. That is
I was gonna ask you about that because I've never done them, and like everybody goes crazy about them now because Joe Rogan told them to.
Mm-hmm.
And so you do think that they did it well?
The way that they show things like moving and breathing, and the way that they show like the facial distortions, yes, all of that was done. That is exactly like being on shrooms. That was 100% indistinguishable from yeah.
What about when Danny has grass growing out of her hand?
I have never seen anything like that. I have experienced the feeling of being connected to nature in a different way, but not seen visuals like that. It's more like the visuals of things like breathing. That is very common. And then the facial distortions are very, very common. Seeing people, like you recognize their face, but things are in slightly different positions or they look slightly different. Like when she sees herself in the mirror and kind of freaks out. That is like very, very common, but I've never seen anything like that, like the grass growing through my hands or weird shit like that.
Yeah, I've heard people say that mirrors are actually pretty weird, and I've had individuals say that if you're doing LSD in particular, that you probably should just avoid mirrors altogether.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I the thing that I loved is the fact that Mark is still a blithering idiot even when he's on shrooms. And he's like, "Guy, why is the light out? What do you mean?" It's like, did you not learn anything about Sweden before you went there? Like,
and I think everyone that has tripped with someone like Mark that like, guys, lay down. Lay down. I need everyone to lay down. It feels so good. Like that. It's like there is this like kind of thing, like the whole reason they're like taking it at the same time. There is this kind of like connection you feel when you're tripping with other people. But it's funny, like Mark is always like, yeah, everyone do this. Everyone, it feels so good. Everyone needs to do this. But I thought that was done really well. Like that's definitely something that anyone who's had a psychedelic journey has probably experienced something like that.
And you know, one of the reasons why like I've never dabbled in it is because I don't know that I would be able to handle it. I think that I would get to the point where no matter what it was, no matter what psychedelic it was, I feel like I'd get to a point where my mind would spiral out of control and that I would not be able to like handle it. Like not as a result of the substance itself, but because of how I am already.
Yeah.
But
that is one of the things.
Like a bad trip's not avoidable for me.
That's one of the things. It's like it is a great tool for people to assist with being introspective into your own mind. But if you're already someone that can do that, you may not need that tool. It's a lot of like it does help some people, but at the same time, yeah, like you're saying, if you're someone that is able to already, try to shed the ego and be introspective, then like, yeah, you may not need the assistance.
On the subject of introspection, I feel like it's abundantly clear that the reason why I read the scene between the two of them in the apartment, like where they kind of get in the disagreement, is it says everything about me and nothing about the writers. Because I was like, I do that shit. I do what she did. I did it.
Well, I think they do the broken relationship so well in this because we've all either been in a relationship like that or known someone that was. We've had someone where like a dead relationship walking. Christian is so checked out. I love the scene. We haven't really gotten there yet, but the scene where they're like asking how long they've been together. And he's like, yeah, like 3.5 years. And she's like, 4 years and 2 weeks. It's like, oh, fuck. Like, not only did you just forget her birthday, but you also forget that your 4-year anniversary is coming up in 2 weeks. Like, that's pretty rough.
Yeah. I didn't start to really dislike him as a character till it got toward that point.
Yeah.
That's where like, and it was funny because with the whole mushroom scene, I thought like, Jesus, are we watching fucking Eurotrip right now?
Yeah.
I was like, what happens now? And then then they make it like, what it is, the actual type of film that it is. And one thing I heard about Swedes is that they actually love speaking English.
Yeah, I love the big dog in chat just did ask. I went to Sweden, or she said, Ty, you went to Sweden, didn't you? Yes, I did go to Sweden, and I did participate in a few rituals. We were able to awaken a vampire deity from thousands of years in the past. It was pretty exciting.
What? You can't just say that. What do you mean?
What did you just ask me about Swedes, though? You were asking me about.
They love speaking English.
Oh,
I've
yes,
heard that they really enjoy speaking English.
Yes, that was one of the reasons why I loved Sweden so much, because literally 90% of people spoke English. You could walk up to anyone, and it was like they enjoyed practicing their English. They looked at it as like a good opportunity to speak English with you.
Yeah. I've heard that if you speak Swedish and they figure out you're American, they'll just tell you, no, please, let's speak English.
Yep.
It's like, apparently they really like it. And everybody in the film actually spoke it really, really well.
Yes.
And, There's just a lot of stuff I find peculiar. Like, why did they entertain any of the questions that the two guys were, asking when they wanted to take their thesis or whatever? Like, why is it that when Josh asked to take photos, Pella was like, "Oh, discreetly." Like, why did he even?
That is a good question, because if the ritual was planned the entire time, okay, well, hold on. They knew that Josh would be sacrificed, so it wouldn't matter if he took pictures, but Christian.
What do you mean they knew?
They knew the Harga.
What indication do we have that they were already gonna kill that dude?
At the end, the 9 chosen for the burning building, they were already, everything was already decided except for Christian. The one choice that was there still to be made was if Christian. So I could see them wanting to protect that, because there was a chance that Christian survived that Danny chose the other person and Christian could have survived that and gone on to make his thesis, and they would have needed to protect everything, the information from getting out then. But I don't know why they cared with Josh, unless they literally were worried that Josh could have escaped. But it's like, that was the other thing. So that's what I started to tell you a few weeks ago when we first mentioned this movie, and I said it's not a normal horror movie, and like it's not where you can scream at the screen, "Don't go in there" or whatever, because there's like, at the point where they're there with the Harga, where do you go? It's like they're so deep in the woods of another foreign country. I don't think you have the opportunity to escape.
Yeah, I mean, you got nothing going for you there. I mean, you can try, but I'm sure those people know the land. But there was one real horror film scene when she walks into like the outhouse and strikes the match and sees her dead sister behind her.
Yes.
That's a classic horror scene, horror film thing, because they love to use mirrors in horror films, I've noticed.
Yep.
That's
actually
was one
funny.
moment where I felt like, yeah, this is a horror film. Just right now it is.
That's actually funny. I've got that in my notes. It said that one scene right there worried me that it was going to be a lot more like a traditional horror movie, but that was like the one trope that they had. And then like, there were like, other than that, there were no other like jump scares, quote unquote, right? Like that's all I remember.
Yeah, not really. I mean, there was some creepy stuff, but nothing that would make you go, oh, like, yeah, nothing like that. There was a lot of uneasy scenes.
Yeah. The closest I can think of to the like quote unquote jump scares or startles would be they do the smash cuts to something very visually striking a lot, where it's like there was one scene where it's like it goes from Pele and Danny talking very calmly to just caved in skulls like very quickly, and there's no sound to make you like jump, but it is I mean, if you're like paying attention to two people talking and all of a sudden the screen changes to that, it is very like whoa, what the fuck.
Well, I do like what they did in that scene. Like, and like a while ago, I think, I don't know if I was having this conversation with you or not, but I've talked to a couple of people about it. The idea that like what we've defined as ethnic groups don't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Like Scandinavians should have their own ethnic group.
Yeah.
Like, because you can look at, like, if you put a French person and a German person next to each other, you may or may not be able to tell the difference unless you are European, maybe. Mm-hmm. But if you put like a Swede and a German next to each other, you can pretty easily tell the difference between the two. Mm-hmm. So like there's the Scandinavian, like that area, like everybody there just seems so different than everybody else in Europe.
Yeah. Yep.
That I almost feel like if we're going to create ethnic groups, that would be one that we should like designate. And I'm sure that people in Europe recognize that.
Yeah.
But the thing I like that they did in the scene, like where the people are jumping, like the audio, the other couple, it was Cameron, was that his name?
So, Simon and Connie.
It's Simon and Connie.
Yep.
That they're screaming about it.
Yeah.
But it's like muffled because I think that they're trying to highlight the shock that the characters are feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
That they don't even really hear what's happening. They're just like, there is a smashed lady right there.
That scene was fucking brutal. That was. I love how they tell you right before that too. Like literally the scene right before that, Pele is describing the seasons of life, and they tell you like 54 to 72 is winter, you're a mentor, and then they're like, what happens at 72? And he's just like, oh. Like, and they laugh about it, but like literally, I mean, this movie is the very beginning, the first tapestry that it shows you at the beginning is the plot line of the movie. Like it throws everything at you, but you don't get it.
It was funny to me because like there was a classic horror moment that I had where like I was yelling at the TV like, he wasn't joking, guys.
Yeah.
He's being serious. They fucking kill you in 72.
Well, you kill yourself.
laughing.
They don't kill you. You kill yourself. Like and I mean, if you listen to Civ's, like I thought Civ's explanation was actually really well done. That it's like it doesn't like, I mean, okay, what is it called? The Atastupa, I think is what they call that ritual, which apparently is a thing. I don't like that is like, if you Google that term, it's a real thing. Like, I don't know if there are like, if we have any evidence of culture still participating in anything like that, but that term exists. But the way that they do that is brutal and is very hard to watch, but I think that they make a very good point. Like when Civ says, like, we rather than getting old and dying in fear and shame, we choose to give our lives, and they do it willingly, and it's a great joy for them. And I think even the way Christian points out later that it's like, you know, we stick our old people in nursing homes and let them rot. They probably think that's brutal, and it's like that it is just a interesting way of, you know, cultures are different, and we look at that as like, wow, that's really fucked up, but at the same time, it's like, well, it is just a difference in culture. And if it is a person willingly choose to do something, do we have the right to say that that's wrong in any way?
Yeah, I think that especially the part that, you know, it was Simon and Connie started just freaking out, telling them how fucked everything was.
Yeah.
That, you know, it's just weird to me that that everybody else seemed to like stay so much longer after that.
Well, I would not have been sketched out at that point yet. You know, like there is nothing, like even like Civ's explanation. You know, it's like there's nothing malicious about that ceremony. Yes, it is brutal, and yes, it is. It would be, you know, I would not want to be there. That would be, you know, I would never want to see that. But there is nothing objectively scary about that. I wouldn't feel that I was in any threat from that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, neither would I until they smashed the almost dead guy's face with a hammer.
Well, I still wouldn't feel threatened by that. It's like that was, you know, they were putting him out of his misery. You know, that like,
yeah, that's true.
It's not like anyone that was not a willing participant of that ritual was in any danger.
And I think that one of the themes that kind of popped out to me about this movie was what happens when, instead of being bound by law, you're bound by tradition. Is that when you create a group like this, what some would call a commune, is that and I use the term mob loosely here, but the mob does make decisions.
Yes.
There isn't really anything other than social pressure. And in some cases, social pressures can be a good thing, like, you know, pressuring people to, you know, be a little more generous or to share resources with other people. You know, pressuring individuals to be kind to each other. Like there's certain ways that you can use those social pressures to push people in a direction that's beneficial for everybody. But I think that with groups that don't have like a official kind of like constitution or any kind of legislative body, that when you leave them to their own devices, and what this is, you know, like a commune type situation where everybody kind of, everything is everyone's and everybody like works and, you know, contributes, that there's a lot of weird sorts of things that happen because people sort of make their minds up in some ways arbitrarily about stuff. Of course, it sounds like this group has existed for a very long time.
But I 100% agree with that. And I have that in my notes slightly differently, though. I think it expands past just a group that is almost removed like that. I think it expands to all of the mob mentality we see. I think that when people feel part of a tribe or part of a group, you end up doing and saying things that I don't think you would ever do or say alone rationally, but you can get people all of a sudden. We're going to see that next week with the movie we watch next week too. But it's like, I think that it's like the mob mentality, once people get together and they feel that they are part of this group and that there is a likeness, that all of a sudden there is, like you're saying, it's more than just the individual. There is almost a mob thought that goes on that makes the decisions.
Yeah, I mean, and group psychology is interesting. Like, I mean, there's entire like chapters in most psychology books about how people think when they're in groups. And yeah, I think that it's the idea that, you know, you have a sort of an instinctive desire to be part of a group, so then that way you can feel protected, I guess, or safe. But the problem is that there was a point where the other was dangerous.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now we're at a point where the other isn't necessarily.
Well,
And that was something that kind of crossed my mind too. Is like when
Well, and with that also comes the with that also comes the there's the diffusion of responsibility, where if you just talk to one person about their ideas, that one person is responsible for what they're saying. If you've got a mob just chanting shit, it's the whole, like, I don't think the one person is not responsible for their one idea. It's all of a sudden there's a diffusion of this responsibility of that idea across the entire mob that I don't think one person needs to feel responsible for what they're, or ever does feel responsible for what they're saying or doing.
Yeah, that's true. That it kind of removes, it's almost like insurance, where you're spreading risk, like you're spreading responsibility across the group. So it's so thin that nobody really takes any.
Exactly. Yep.
There are some things that that I thought were interesting about the community that they had, that they seemed to create this sense of acted out empathy.
Yes, where everyone's feeling what one person, even when the guy was dying and the entire group is acting like they're feeling the pain.
Yeah, or like the weird scene at the end where they drug a Christian up and everybody's making weird sex sounds. That was weird.
This was a really funny movie to watch with my parents. This was a great choice.
Yeah, I was like, because when you said that just for people to know that one of the reasons why I thought I'd be okay with this film, that you were like, my mom got through it. Like, oh, okay, it'll be fine. And there were a couple scenes where I was like, dude, he watched this with his parents. I was like, I can't believe that.
But I do think that was a big draw for Danny. That, if you picture Danny's storyline in this, and I mean, Pele, it spells it out for us. Does she feel at home? Does she feel held? Does she feel loved where she is? No. Here's this group that is literally people that are 100% empathetic. Not the checked out boyfriend that she can't even really. They're at the point where they can't even speak to each other really. Like we talked about with the argument. It's they're not even really able to have this connection. Versus a group that is showing themselves as no, we are 100% connected to what you are feeling. That's why you're gonna stay there. I guess you're gonna feel 100% at home there.
Yeah, I mean. Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons, right?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
But I do see how he was trying to sell it to her, though, that that everybody would you'll feel like you belong or whatever.
Did you catch what Pele was also telling us? I didn't get this till the second watch. That so he tells us that his parents died in a fire when he was young, and he essentially became an orphan. I'm pretty sure his whole family got brought there, and they. Well, actually, hold on. No, that doesn't add up. Never mind, because this ritual happens once every 90 years.
Oh yeah.
So okay. Never mind. So yeah, I guess that wouldn't make sense. Okay.
Yeah, he wasn't old enough to have parents that would be 90 now, or over 90, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think shit gets really, really weird toward the end, where they're doing the dance contest thing, and the one character, I don't know the character's name, but she hands him the cup that's it's just a mineral water with properties.
Yeah.
So, well, what kind of properties? Special ones. What's it gonna do? And she's just not bashful about it. It's gonna make you easier for suggestion.
Yeah.
It's gonna take your defenses down. So
yeah, it makes you open to the influence or something like that. Yeah.
And Pele kind of looks at him and smiles yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, at that point he had already been way deep into the love ritual with Maya. But the interesting thing is I think that Christian was interested in Maya before any of that started.
You think so?
They show, okay, so the weird when I started the episode with the that they do right before they're about to do something big. Okay, so it shows Maya in looking at herself in the mirror in the bathroom. She's getting ready. You could tell that she's preparing to start this ritual. They walk out. She's dancing in line. All she does is kick Christian in the side, just playfully as she's walking by. And immediately he turns and looks at her and he's like, hey, am I allowed to join in this line too? She had not done any of the parts of the love ritual yet that they show us on the tapestry. And then I love Pele's response was, you're an American, just jam yourself in there.
That actually did crack me up a little bit, because it was sort of kind of like a slight, but also at the same time, well, hey, you know,
I mean, that
that's
is
what you
like
guys always do. Just yell at people in English, even though they don't speak your language, and then somehow they'll understand you. And you know, like the part like where I don't know if Danny, it's spelled Donnie though. That's how I would pronounce it if I saw the spelling. Where Danny, like, was she supposed to win the dance contest the whole time, or did that just kind of happen?
I think that was the goal. I mean, it like, see, that's the thing. Like, I'm really not sure. I am either way that I take this movie, if Pele was behind everything or if it was a happy accident that Pele then wanted her to come, I do think that his intention from as soon as he knew that she was coming was that, yes, she should have been the next May Queen. Like, with her birthday being right there and everything, like, it lines up that I think that that's where he wanted things to go.
Yeah, because that sort of culture, I guess they put a lot of weight on like dates and times and the ritualistic types of like scheduling and things. Yeah, that would make perfect sense. Well, you know, like, okay, so there's the part after she gets crowned the May Queen and they're at the big ass table right before Christian does the deed. What the fuck is the big thing on the table and why does it keep looking wavy?
Because I mean that's the psychedelic effect. Like the same reason why that one flower in her head, the crown thing keeps like opening and closing. I think they're just like showing that whatever I think that was like mushroom tea, I guess, or has some sort of like psychedelic properties, whatever everyone was drinking. But I thought it was the bear, but then the bear wasn't butchered until later they show. So I have no idea what the fuck they were supposed to be eating. It was same with the whole, like, why was there the thing with the fish? Like, that was just so random and like came out of nowhere. Like, you have to try to swallow a herring and like, yeah.
It seemed there was a point where I think they were trying to get the audience to be a little uncomfortable with the people in the commune, that they were, because the reactions to the herring thing and her not wanting to do it are like almost like it's funny and playful, but also seems like a bit of a mockery.
Yeah.
Or the scene where Christian asks the guy what's going on, the dude just claps in his face.
Yeah.
And he's like, why did you do? And then he kind of gives him the look that he gives him.
Yeah.
You know, that you can see that they don't let outsiders in often, and when they do, there's a specific purpose. And you can see how like intolerant they are of them like being stupid or whatever. Like,
well, yeah, exactly. I mean, Christian's his only point to be there was like he was a stud, right? Like literally, he was there for breeding purposes, and then he was going to be killed. So yeah, why would they respect anything he has to say or anything? Like, yeah, they're not interested in his mind or speaking to him. Like, yeah.
I mean, that's just so funny to me. It's like, because I was listening to Halsey's new album earlier, the one that she just came out with like a few months ago. I think it was like within the last couple months, and she talks about how it's so hard to find love because nobody really wants to know her. And I was just like, oh, poor Christian feels just like Halsey does.
Yeah. Yep.
They only want him for his body. Poor thing. And you know, I thought it was kind of funny at the end where they're choosing the additional sacrifice that the May Queen's supposed to do, and they have like this human sacrifice lottery.
Yeah. Yep.
Where they like mix the little balls together and it comes out the runes on it. I'm like, that's funny.
It is kind of weird. Yeah. Another thing, I want to go back real quick. This is I think there were multiple times where this movie does like just social questions, right? Like who was in the right. I love the Christian versus Josh dynamic on the thesis. I think that's another one where I don't think either character was clearly in the right or wrong, and they do like a little bit of a nice just showing of a gray area and like a disagreement between friends.
Yeah, that was actually kind of cool. I think the way that they did it was interesting because like there was a degree of like hostility or whatever that was like, and it's also another result of going on a long trip with somebody and spending a lot of time with them too. Like you start to get irritated by somebody. You know, and then the fact that Pele, that's his name, right?
Yeah.
I keep saying it differently every time. I think that he said the thing about like, oh, you can do it, but you guys have to share it.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's funny because looking back on it, I was like, that was all in vain anyway. It's like, I feel like he's just like having fun with them almost.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that until you brought that up, but it's like, because I mean, they were friends. You know, I don't know how long we've known that, or how long Pele and and Josh and Christian and them were all supposed to know each other, but they were like, it is, I mean, he did care about them as a person, but at the same time, it's like his bigger devotion was to the group, and
Right.
and what he's bringing to them is going to bring him prosperity in what he believes. But yeah, that's an interesting dynamic though. Yeah, why was he just fine with lying? Well, I guess like you have to keep up appearances at that point. Like if you get there and then all of a sudden like act like there's no reason to consider a future with that person, that may send off some red flags. Like, but
Yeah, that's true. Then you don't get to burn them in your ceremony.
exactly. Yeah. You don't want to mess up the ceremony.
There was one thing I found interesting, that with the bear thing, the thing that they say about like we give our worst trespasses or our most terrible deeds to you, foulest of beasts, or some shit like that. There was a Hebrew tradition where a priest would confess the sins of Israel to a goat.
Interesting. And then slaughter
And
it?
then the goat would be I think the goat would just be released.
Oh, interesting.
Like it would just go.
Oh,
and like I think that's where the term scapegoat comes from.
Yeah. I've heard that before. Yeah.
But to me, like I thought it was, I don't think they sacrificed it. I thought that they would just send the goat away.
Huh.
It would make sense for them to kill it because that's kind of a thing that they did.
Sure.
But
yeah.
I think it was a way. A goat sent into the wilderness after the Jewish chief priest has symbolically laid the sins of the people upon it.
Interesting.
So, which is weird because that's a goat. Oh, it doesn't die. Never mind, because Jesus was the lamb, so lambs get slow. Okay, never mind. That makes sense. Okay, yeah. Christian symbolism is so fun. But to me, like that was a very similar like tradition to that, except they didn't burn anything alive. They just sent it on, and like that was just like kind of crazy. Like could they just like gut a bear and put a human inside of it? That's got to be a nasty experience, especially when you're completely paralyzed and can only move your eyeballs.
Yeah, that seems to be that whole end scene was like, Jesus Christ, that's so bad.
I love that what they do is, while this thing that to most normal people in our culture is somewhat grotesque. I mean, the bodies are essentially mutilated by what we would consider our standards.
Yeah.
That they're playing this like peaceful kind of lovely music.
Yep.
But then there's like this part where the music kind of devolves into dissonance.
Yeah.
But then it comes back into like this sort of weird broken harmony thing.
Yep. Yeah, there was a lot that was really well done in this. Everything from like you're saying, the music to the cinematography. Oh yeah.
But really fucked up movie. Made a lot of strange faces. Don't know how I feel about it exactly, but but it's like I said, like I hate it, but I think people should watch it. I hate that I think this.
Yeah,
but I really think that people should watch this one. Yeah.
Dude, there's some interesting things that I picked up on. Like I think it's cool. The apparently Danny's last name, Ardor, is actually Latin to burn.
Oh.
So that's another big like foreshadowing that at the very beginning of the movie, like and like like I said at the beginning, the tapestry tells you pretty much the entire story of the movie if you like pause it and look at like what those panels are showing you. Where was the other part here? About the runes. Okay, so the R looking rune is apparently, I'm probably gonna pronounce this wrong, like Raidho, I think is how it's Raidho, but it signifies like journey, control, growth, or evolution. And Danny's shown wearing that rune very often, and she like changes to become this very different person. The F looking rune, Fehu, is supposed to signify wealth, power, or charisma. It's shown that Pele is wearing that, and it's like possibly indicating that the prosperity or power that he's gaining by bringing all of these sacrifices to this one ritual. And then the up looking arrow is Tiwaz, which is honor, justice, or self-sacrifice. And of course Christian is shown wearing that, and it's obviously that like not only the self-sacrifice, but I think like some of what happens to him is somewhat considered justice. I think Danny was like wronged, and I think at the end, like she is kind of getting justice, whether or not I'm not going to say that it's correct justice, but I think in her eyes that it might have been either justice or vengeance. But yeah, I think that was kind of interesting. Like there's a lot in the runic symbology.
I want to have a child just so I can name them Tiwaz.
That's kind of a cool name. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like it. And like the meaning is interesting. I mean, I don't think I have any Scandinavian in me at all, but it would still be fun to, whatever, appropriate someone's naming or a word to name my kid something interesting. I mean, I have a cat with a Hebrew name, so I mean, maybe that's not fair either.
But an interesting question that came up to me though at the end is, I think we touched on it a little bit with the manipulation, but it's like the mob kind of makes the decisions. Like, was Danny manipulated by the Horga, or do you think that she found a place where she belonged? Or is it a little bit of both? Like, do you think that she made the decision to stay, or do you think that she was manipulated into making the decision to stay?
I think. Sorry, I'm making like a bunch of squeaky door noises. I think that she was more susceptible to it because of the position and the state that she was in. I mean, it's the same way people end up in other cult type groups or skinheads or hell, I mean, maybe even the Klan. Like, I mean, I think that she was particularly open or susceptible to that kind of suggestion. And, you know, like you said before, like if the whole thing was orchestrated, well, then that would make sense. So there has to be a reason, because I'm trying to figure out where Pele had, at what point you could see him making sure that she came. At what point?
There really isn't. What it's more just like the first indication is Christian telling them I invited her, and him being the only one with a positive reaction to it. But it's like, that seems to be really the first indication that he was either involved or happy that she was coming. But
you know, and what happened with her, I don't know that it was necessarily manipulation. I think it was actually just people trying to convince her to stay, and she just kind of decided to. And I wouldn't say that any of the drug taking was necessarily required as part of like a suggestion, because it seems they were all doing it anyway. That except for the part where, you know, Christian does the people from outside part. Like, I don't know. I think that I don't know that she was. I don't know that there was really any like way that they use any devices to manipulate her. Really, I think that they were trying to get her to, and she just decided to.
I wonder, because it is definitely like, I don't think that the Danny we saw at the beginning of the movie would have made the decision she made at the end. It's obvious that there was a transformation that took place in the part of the movie. Like, there's no way that she would have chose to burn him alive at the very beginning of the movie. She even like wouldn't even let him leave the apartment during a fight. You know what I mean? Like, she needed him. So it's like, it's interesting to see that much of a change take place in a character. But yeah, it made me wonder, is like, is it the mob mentality? Is it the like, or was it just Danny 100% finding her home and finding somewhere where she felt she belonged?
Maybe just a bit of everything.
I think, I don't know, but yeah, I enjoy this one though. I think this is cool. If you are open to Hereditary, I think I'm going to suggest it in an upcoming week then, because it's if you got something out of this one, I feel like you also would get something out of Hereditary. It is, I would say, almost certainly more scary. It is more of a horror movie than this was, but it is still like, it's not a traditional horror movie. It is still like, there, you know, it's more about the thoughts that it's going to make you think about rather than just the horror movie itself. But
yeah, I will be watching that one with my girlfriend and my teddy bear and my cat. Has
she seen Hereditary yet? I know you said she's seen Midsommar.
Yeah, I don't think she's seen Hereditary.
Okay, cool.
I think I mentioned it to her and she wasn't familiar with it, but she read some stuff about it and was like, "Ooh, this sounds interesting." I was like, "You are fucked up."
Did she like Midsommar or not?
So we actually planned on watching this together, but we didn't.
But you said that she had already seen this.
Yeah, she had. I didn't really ask her if she liked it or not.
Okay.
She mainly wanted me to see it just because, like, she wanted to see my reaction. But we ended up watching Borat 2 instead. So.
Gotcha. I do think it's interesting. The like, this movie didn't do amazing as far as the critic score was fine, 83%, but the audience score was, markedly lower at 63%. It did make me wonder. This movie came out 1 year after Hereditary, and it's the same writer director. Did fans of Hereditary come into this expecting more of that type of horror movie and got this slower moving, character-based drama that didn't really have a lot of what they were looking for, and is that why they were disappointed, I would think?
I imagine it was probably a combination of fans of Hereditary being disappointed it wasn't the same, and people that have never seen either coming into it thinking this is disgusting.
Yeah,
because a lot of people just lack these sort of. I think a lot of us doing this show together, I think we're required to have an openness like to things more than other people are about movies.
Yeah.
Because especially when we have the binary like yes or no at the beginning, we have to kind of be a little more open. So I think a lot of people just aren't. Well,
we've talked about it with different media consumption, where a lot of people look at things where if it made them feel uneasy or feel bad, that it was bad. Rather than I look at that as like, that's a success. If this movie was like, if it was able to portray that emotion to you and it made you feel a certain way, then that to me almost is an example of it being a good movie because it was able to do that.
But we're also two individuals that pride ourselves in understanding the value of discomfort.
That's true.
And not just in movies. I mean, like in any way.
That's true.
And I think that most people just aren't. Yeah, they just think of it as a bad thing. Like I felt bad, so this is bad. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, every now and then you just need a good cry.
Which I mean, I don't know if I said this last time, but I do think that it does matter what you're looking for in your entertainment. If you want to check out and feel, like there are times where I want to put on a movie that's going to just make me laugh at that moment. Like, I'm not going to want to watch Midsommar. Like that is not at all what I'm looking for. So depending on like what your goal is from your entertainment, then yes, it may not be right for you at that moment. But
that's true. And for me, like, man, okay, look, bro, like I've taken the last 2 days off of work. I was at home all by myself today. I hadn't really had much to eat. And I started watching this and I was like, man, this shit is dark as fuck. I was like, sometimes I think to myself, like, man, sometimes doing this show sucks because I have to force myself to do shit.
Sorry, man.
Like, watch shit I didn't feel. But once again, it's part of the fun is that I'm in a situation, in a place that I'm uncomfortable. And the thing is like last week when I gave you like the hints for the movies, I knew you were going to pick this one.
True.
When this one I really didn't want to see. Because if you said that to me, I'd be like, yes, we're watching that.
Yeah. Yep.
And like, I think anybody would do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it was too easy. Yeah.
So like I almost baited it and knew what was going to happen. And some like masochistic part of me probably wanted to watch something that makes me uncomfortable. But, it's the other thing is like, it's like when we were kids and everybody would be like, oh, Ty, bro, get in the mosh pit. It's fun. You'd be like, I don't know, man. And we'd be like, guys, got to get Ty in the mosh pit. Ty, get in the mosh pit. You're like, I don't know. And then like when you finally got in one, you're like, I'm kind of glad that I did this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, that was like 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
But it is like there is a big benefit to feeling uncomfortable sometimes, and if you're up for it, I think it can be a experience of growth.
Yeah, and like for me, it's just you being like, hey, watch this movie that's kind of freaky and might make you feel nuts for a few days. I'm like, I don't know. Then you just keep like, hey, we could watch this. It's pretty good. And after a little while, like, you kind of wear me down a little bit. And then I go and watch something that's a little fucked up and I actually end up liking it. It's like roller coasters.
It sounds really rapey when you say it that way, but I kind of force it on you. But then once you take it, you like it. But I feel bad. But as long as you get something out of the experience of watching it, then I think that it's worth the discomfort. Like I feel like this movie, like I mean, like you said, even if you didn't necessarily enjoy it and you don't necessarily enjoy giving it a yes, I do feel like it at least there were some thoughts that it gave you that was at least beneficial in some way, or like so at least you looked at something in a way that maybe you hadn't before. Or there was something that you got out of this, but hopefully.
Yeah, I'm never going to fucking Sweden.
Damn it, God! This movie made me want to go back to Sweden.
It's like Sweden, the ocean. I got Titanic and Jaws to thank for that one.
Not underwater. You want to go to the bottom of the Marianas Trench and find Cthulhu?
It's just since that's so unlikely. It's just like I'm not even worried about that. Yeah,
that's fair.
Cthulhu's more likely than me ever visiting the Mariana Trench, or like even the fact that like I feel weird about having my back to my closet at night. Dude, have you seen that movie? It's like a babysitter fighting like things that kids are usually afraid of.
No.
Like closet monsters and shit. It actually looks really interesting to me.
I'm in. Like, is it brand new or what?
Yeah, like it just came out very recently.
Okay.
I think the movie might be called Babysitter.
We might have to do that soon. That's cool.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to no.
The Babysitter came out in 2017. I don't think that's it. The Babysitter Killer Queen? It comes out in 2020. It's a sequel.
What?
Well, no, it's a sequel to the other Babysitter. I don't think this is the one you're talking about.
Because that one might actually be like one of those weird horror films. Like
this is
one that I think we should watch.
We'll find it. Yeah, it is not the Babysitter though. But we'll find the one you're talking about because that sounds like something I'd be interested in. That sounds cool.
Yeah, I saw an advertisement for The Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting.
Okay. Yeah, let's throw that on the list.
On a mission to save a child who's been abducted by monsters. That's
awesome. I'm into it. What's the rating on that?
I swear to God, this is a kid's movie.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Oh shit, I think it might be comedy, family, fantasy. Nope, this is off the list.
That sucks. That same idea. It's like that same idea as a heavy R would be fucking awesome. That would be a really cool, like dark ass movie
with like shotguns and chainsaws and like holy water and shit.
And like, visuals by Benicio del Toro. Oh, yes, I want it. I want that movie to be made so bad now. Holy shit.
We gotta make movies. We gotta make them,
dude. Are you ready to do favorite line?
Oh yeah, I think you're gonna like mine this week.
I fucked up. I've already said my favorite line earlier this episode.
Are you serious?
I have. Yeah, I've said it.
Well then, can you come up with a new favorite line?
I can't remember another line. I've been trying to literally like ever since I said it because I realized like I fucked up. You go first. I got this.
I think I ate one of her pubic hairs.
Dude, you know what my original favorite line was?
Was it that?
That sounds about right. No, it was the response to that. And the whole reason why I didn't pick that line because it only made sense because it was a response to your line. So actually, my favorite line works out.
Awesome. We have complimenting favorite lines.
That deserves a... We actually did that right. Holy shit, dude. You made my favorite line work. But no, the one that I actually had written down because of not thinking that one wouldn't work was the, you're an American. Just jam yourself in there. I love that line.
I had a bullet point for that. And I had the quote in there as like, and a lot of the times those end up like as things to mention, but other times they'll end up as quotes at the end.
Yeah.
But that's like that. I mean, that is a good one. Like, and I kind of was like going with your whole like taking a kooky line out of context for a serious movie thing that you do.
Yeah,
because I kind of think that's fun, and I was like, that's the one. That's it. Because completely out of context, it's like, what?
Good, yeah, but it's a good choice. That was a good moment too. Like, yeah, this movie does that really well, where there are just great breaks of like little bit of levity and comedy that it's like, holy fuck, like you're in a dark ass situation, but you made me chuckle a little bit there.
High five.
So, yeah, speaking of, so next week you've got a choice between two movies. Do you want to see a movie with Rudy Giuliani in it, or do you want to see a movie with a great mustache? It's a trick. Both the movies are Borat. Next week, we are going to be doing Borat, a subsequent movie film, Delivery of Prodigious Bribe to American Regime for Make Benefit Once Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan. So please watch Borat 2. It is on Amazon Prime for free right now, and we will be talking about that next week.
I have a feeling we're going to get a heated debate about this one.
Probably. It is a very like... It's different. It is not nearly as like lighthearted as the first one. This one definitely comes with an agenda. So let's see. Let's go to is this the right scene? This is the right scene. Okay. Are we done? Did we do everything? Did we cover all of our shits?
Well, we've done everything but the outro.
I know. Well, last week I started the outro early, so I'm making sure that I like remember we didn't even do it. Yeah. So I'm making sure I've covered all my bases. I think I did. I think I did it. Guys, this is going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Metacast Movie Show. If you're watching this on YouTube and you've enjoyed our discussion, please hit the like button, subscribe to keep up to date, and comment below and tell us how you felt about Midsommar. And if you want to further keep up to date with the show or even join us as a guest on a future episode, you could always join our Discord. The link is in the description down below. And we will be live next week on Wednesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on twitch.tv/TylerTV talking about Borat 2. So thanks everyone for listening, and I hope you all have a great week.